Well, hey there, everybody. Guess what? It's Thursday noontime, and that for you guys right now, and for myself and my lovely podcast wife that you can see to either side of me, whatever side of the screen you're looking at. It means we're here for another episode of Life Downloaded. So, hey,
Yeah.
everybody. I'm Dan Edge. The lovely lady next to me, whichever side of the screen she is, I think I keep pointing in the wrong direction, is my lovely podcast wife, Samantha Rink. Say hi, Sam.
Oh, well, hello. I'm just trying to get the right angle, but I'm thinking that like stripes on a Zoom call aren't that flattering. Oh, oh,
I've never considered how important stripes on a Zoom call are. This is
yeah.
new.
I'm
This
not
is
too.
new.
I mean, again, it makes my boobs look bigger. How many seconds is that until I've mentioned my bosoms?
You've mentioned your boobs in about 10 seconds, possibly,
Wow,
maybe
and that's a
less.
world record. And it wasn't done in a weird, crass way. It was a genuine comment about my stripes.
Indeed.
What is it? Vertical stripes or a no go? Everyone has to excuse me today because guess what? I have just come back from my COVID vaccination.
Yeah, stage one complete.
Oh
Achievement
my goodness.
unlocked.
And you know what? We've totally forgotten to do. I'm going to describe myself because we're so awful at this and we should be so much better at this.
We should, because we preach about accessibility and we say how rubbish we are.
Well, I think I get so excited about talking about my bosoms that I forget all about the accessibility features that we should offer.
Indeed.
As standard with Life Downloaded. So I have lovely long blonde hair. However, my roots are pretty dark at the moment, but we'll just breeze over that. I am a wheelchair user. I am sat in my adopted room in Lancashire. You can probably see the beams behind me. I've got some beautiful beams and my dressing gowns, which looks rather unsightly, hanging on my door. I am wearing a lovely Breton striped top, and I'm wearing my glasses. There we go.
You are indeed wearing your glasses. So, bit of audio description for those of watching on visuals. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, you now just have a lovely description of what Sam is looking like right now. So it's an all-round win. For those that want to know what I look like, God bless you, like you'd ever want to know that. I am a white man with a semi-long, sort of stubblish beard, long curly-ish blonde hair that's currently back in a sort of South American footballer style with a hairband.
Very metrosexual.
I'm comfortable. I'm wearing a black V-neck T-shirt, short-sleeved, and I'm sat in front of a rather boring black background because as an actor you need a plain background to do self-tapes. So yeah, there you go. Bit of audio description for the world. So how are you?
I think we should totally describe each other next time.
Okay.
Let's do that. Let's. Yeah, I think that should be a thing. No.
We'll give it a go.
We'll give it a go.
And then if enough people are watching live next time, by the time we're audio describing, we'll let them describe us and we'll read out the comments. That could be dangerous.
That's scary. Adam, I know. Calm down. I'm getting excited already.
Yeah. So how are you, my dear, now that you've had your first COVID jab? Was it scary? Was it exciting? What was it?
So obviously, like, subconsciously, I think probably my brain is going, oh my goodness, I can probably sleep much better. I know that a lot of us have experienced unsettled sleep ever since I was going to say the launch of the pandemic. That's not the correct word, but ever since COVID devastated our day-to-day living. So from that point of view, I think my mental well-being is probably going to take a massive upturn. So that's all thumbs up to that. Obviously, I am away from my home in London. I am shielding at my mother's in Lancashire. I have just a little bit of context. I'm very happy to talk about my impairment. I was born with osteogenesis imperfecta, more commonly known as brittle bones. I have type 3, which is a very different mutation, so to speak. It doesn't run in the family. And I have 50% lung capacity because of my scoliosis. And also I found out, I think this is why I kind of love in times of crisis, we all band together and we share information, particularly within the disability community, I found. And the OIFE, which is the European kind of organisation for brittle bones, did a few seminars right at the beginning during the first lockdown. And they actually told me something about the fact that having brittle bones means you don't have type 1 collagen in your body, which can affect so many parts of your body, your hair, your nails, your skin, your arteries, of course, your skeleton, hence the brittle bones. But actually, the capillaries or whatever you want, I don't know, I probably should have listened in biology. The little bronchi.
Yes, bronchi, yeah.
There you go.
The little bits in your lungs. You did listen.
FYI, I'm totally flicking my hair right now. Yeah, so apparently there's collagen in that as well. So even if I didn't have the scoliosis, my lungs are, if they get damaged, they don't recover very well. So I had, in 2014, I had pneumonia, had sepsis, ended up on a ventilator, not dissimilar to what people are sadly experiencing now. So, and now, as a result from the scarring, I now use an inhaler, and I'm classified as asthmatic. Sorry, I'm sure you didn't really need to know the entirety of my medical history, but just to contextualize, I think it's important because I was asked today what kind of band were you in, 4 or 6, and I think on the grounds of simply having brittle bones, because of the ignorance towards the collagen affecting your lungs, because not many doctors know that. Unless they're specialists, I would have been in band 6, so still waiting, very similar to you, Dan. Mm-hmm. However, because of my asthma and because of the damage to mark from the, scarring, I got bunched up. However, I know I'm using that word a lot, I somehow slipped through the net. And I know this sounds shocking, but it's happening quite a lot. So that basically means that, this blows my mind a little bit. And I hate ever criticising the NHS, and I hate even criticising my GP because they're freaking amazing in Clerkenwell in London. They are really great, and they've always been just really, really supportive when I've had mental health issues, etc. And I phoned up my GP the other day, and I was like, "Hello, what's happening?" And they apologised, and they said, "Unfortunately, you slipped through the net." And part of me is a bit like, hang on, I go for like regular asthma checks. Surely you should have a list. But I think not to make excuses, because, accidents like this should not be happening. These are like, life-altering mistakes. However, we were not prepared as a civilization for this pandemic. And I think everyone's kind of been thrown in way at the deep end and trying to do as best they could. So I know I'm rambling. However, so I called up my GP, and she said to me the best thing that you can do, which was an amazing option, because there are a lot of people shielding away from their homes. I had to register temporarily, can't say that word.
Temporarily.
At a local GP. So I rang them up, I picked up the forms, dropped the forms back off. And within 24 hours, they called me and booked me in the next day for a jab. So I bow down to that system working, because I genuinely, when they said you need to register with a different GP, when you just think, oh, that sounds like a real laborious, long-winded,
yes,
kind of round the houses. Will I ever get my injection? Will I have to go back to London sooner than I'd hoped? So I'm really pleased. Everything was great. I felt very safe. I just want to say, for those of you who still haven't received your jab, the kind of makeshift centre, everything was done above board. Access was great. My mum got to help me. I didn't need to wait 15 minutes afterwards, because they asked me, Are you driving a vehicle? And I said, well, technically, as a wheelchair user, I am. And I was joking, but they even said to me, they were like, well, actually, that is classified. So they allowed my mother to push my wheelchair, so I didn't have to wait, because I didn't really want to wait around with a lot of individuals, even though it was kept very,
Indeed, you wanted to minimise the risk. That's fair enough.
Yeah, you still don't really want to be, mixing with commoners. Not mixing with other people, for goodness sake. Do they not know who I am? I need a whole wing of a hospital all to myself. You think I'm joking? I'm really not. So I feel great. I obviously know, I'm very aware that I am not going to go around snogging people, and I'm not going to, I'm still going to be shielding. Like, I still work from home. I'm still very comfortable. And this takes up to 2 weeks, I believe, to take effect. Then I've got another up to 12 weeks for the next one. So I'm not going to be going and doing anything, against the law.
No, indeed.
To clarify.
No holidays, no clubbing.
Yes,
no,
even though I did make a comment on Instagram saying I want to snog people, someone got really upset by that comment. So I do apologise. I am, of course, very aware that I am not to break any rules, and which I won't, and I will respect.
Indeed.
Everything.
That doesn't mean you don't want to snog people, though. The want can still be there. But it doesn't mean that you should act on it, and you're not going to. So, it's that's the thing.
Condoning it.
No, not at all. But yay for round one of being stabbed in the arm with awesome new vaccines. Like we were saying, though, I am the couple of steps down from you. I am level 6. I don't know. Do we call it level 6? That makes me sound.
No, it's not. I don't know what you call it. Band 6.
Band 6. Who knows? But yes, I'm band 6 because obviously having cerebral palsy, like I do, which is classed as a long-term neurological condition. Which.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is, because it's basically damage to the brain due to lack of oxygen. So it's classed as a long-term neurological condition, which for me. I've found when I first read it, although it makes complete and utter sense, took a second to adjust to. I'm not going to lie, on a personal level, yeah, because because my CP manifests itself very physically in terms of muscle control and balance and all that kind of stuff. I've never really considered it as a neurological condition on a personal level.
Yeah,
but it completely is.
Yeah.
And, I've always considered it a physical impairment because in terms it is, but it's rooted in neurology and the brain. And so yeah, when I first read that at the start of the COVID outbreak, the use of that term took some getting used to. And I was like, well, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I'm described as severely disabled, and I, chronic condition as well, and a rare condition. And even I get that because even those terms don't sit like they don't. I don't feel offended by them.
No,
but equally, I don't feel like that represents me. I don't feel like a rare. Anomaly. Partly because a lot of people with OI are badass people, and they're like, amazing influencers and, dancers and, all sorts of fantastic individuals who pop up quite regularly here, there and everywhere. So I don't feel, like I'm a real rarity. And I suppose I don't necessarily see myself as severe. You know what I mean? Like I get on paper, on medical paper, I probably am. I'm like 90% metal in my body. 50% lung capacity. I tick a lot of scary boxes with regards to the medicine. But I think yesterday I had a little moment when I realised I was in like the thier band, whatever, 4, which is obviously more. I don't want to use the word vulnerable because we are not using that word.
No.
More susceptible.
Yes, that's a better word.
I was really excited because I was like, yes, this is what I wanted. But then equally, I was like, oh my God, I'm like one of the most high risk
groups.
At risk. And that was a bit of a, because you are aware of it, but you suppress, don't you? You put it to the back of your mind. Like having brittle bones, I don't wake up every morning and go, today I'm going to have a break, la la, la la.
No, and I think,
have a break, la, 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 la.
Disabled or not, I think that's something that people generally aren't very good at. People generally aren't very good at realising that they're not invincible.
Yeah.
whether you're disabled or not. Because nobody, not wanting to put a downer on the podcast, but nobody really openly talks about death in culture. It's generally avoided. Nobody ever talks about illness and, life-changing circumstances because nobody wants to think about it.
No, of course. It's scary. And, I lost my father. He died. He was non-disabled. He died when he was 38. That's scary considering you're 36, Danny boy. He had a brain hemorrhage, and I think for a time, that definitely impacted how I valued life, irrespective of my disability. But I've got this, whole toothache, analogy, and it's very similar to childbirth. It's very similar. It's a coping mechanism. You kind of are more aware, and you might practice more gratitude and live for the moment. And we're experiencing that now. A lot of people who have maybe never experienced trauma or kind of anything that's life-changing are now in a pandemic, and they're thinking, wow, I value my friends, I value my health, I value even when I used to wake up and go to work every morning and I used to be annoyed that I was on the underground, now all I want to do is go on the underground. However, we can fast forward probably 18 months on, and a lot of people will probably just go back to their old habits, and it's that toothache effect. When you have it, all you want in the world is not to have toothache. You start praying to any god that would listen to you. But then, the week after, when you've had your filling put in and all is good, that kind of goes to the wayside. And I think it is a natural coping mechanism, same again with childbirth, because if you constantly were traumatized, and I know some women do get PTSD from childbirth, and a lot of women really struggle with that, but the majority you forget the labor pain, or you forget the whole trauma, because the universe wants you to have more children. You wouldn't let no man come near you with a sausage if it was really, that trauma. At least I wouldn't anymore. I'd be like, back off. Back off.
Well, as somebody that is quite open in the fact that I don't want children.
Oh, you were going to say someone who has openly got a sausage.
Well, I have one of those too. Just, for reference. No woman has to worry about child labour pains with me. Are you
trying to croon for people?
No, not at all. I have a lovely lady in my life.
I know about it, but just you be careful. That could have gone down the wrong path. But we are going to talk today a little bit about dating and listen, hear me out before you're like, really, Samantha, I expected more from you, because I hate this obsession that non-disabled people have, or the media have, with disability and sex and relationships. And it's a bit like, okay, move on. There's so many more important topics you need to be focusing on, rather than whether Dan's got a sausage or whether I want to have children, or can have children. However, we're not going to name the person's name, but there was a tweet yesterday, wasn't there, Dan, of a young woman who has a disability, who, and we're also not going to mention the dating site because of legal reasons. I don't even know where we stand on that. However, she subscribed to a dating site, and yeah, you take it from here, Dan, because you're much more articulate tonight. I've had my jab, and I don't know what's going on.
So, now that you've put the pressure on me, my brain's gone.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Sing a little bit while you get your thoughts together.
Indeed. No. So this lovely young lady applied to use the services of a dating site, a dating company, and raised some questions, to which they then replied. I'm hoping, Sam, that you're looking for the actual tweet.
I actually have it, because I was supposed to talk about it on radio this morning, but because I was getting my jab, I declined, and I passed it on to an amazing campaigner on sex and disability, lovely Kelly. Now, Kelly has recently got divorced, I think, or changed her last name. So I don't know her next last name. So let's not go down there. However, let's read it. So, dear whoever, thank you for giving us information about yourself. So she's obviously told the dating site that she has a disability. No. Dating is not a specialist agency, and our experience of disabled dating is limited. We have provided our services to clients living with various disabilities and feel it only right to be transparent with you before offering a membership. Regretfully, others are not always open to dating someone living with your disability, and many decline to go forward with a match when offered. So we have found that achieving good outcomes for full-time wheelchair users, I mean, they got that term right, user clients can be quite challenging. You should consider this before looking to take out a membership. As we get more inquiries from disabled, we are considering developing a special brand for the disabled data. Disabled data. If you do not want to proceed with the membership, we would like to retain your information so we can approach blah 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 blah. If you'd like, if you would welcome a further chat, let us know. I mean, that's a bit of a head floozy, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
On many levels. And my heart went out to her because I had a very similar experience years ago. I say years ago, about 4 years ago, on a very well-known dating site. I actually received quite a lot of abuse from men. It went from quite cruel stuff to things like, "Oh God, you're really brave to be on here," you know. And I basically said, "I want my money back, cancel my subscription." And their reply was, you know, not how can we facilitate your needs? We realize we need to do more. That was not, you know, what you've experienced should not be tolerated. And they just basically went, "Yeah, okay, we understand, and here's your money back," type thing. You've cancelled your.
Wow. And you see, I think my issue with this, and Lisa's just come in because she's watching us on YouTube, saying that BBC News had a statistic that nearly 50% of non-disabled people wouldn't consider dating a disabled person.
Yeah.
To which she adds to the end, WTF, those of you that understand, you know, internet acronyms. But yeah, I think what I find really problematic about that whole scenario is the way that young woman's been treated by the agency, the company, whatever term we're using. But also that, for me, that they feel that the answer is to have a separate service just for disabled people in the corner over there. I personally find that massively problematic, because, you know, and maybe it's different for me as a disabled man, and this is another point of conversation, and we've talked about this before on previous podcasts about where the perception of disabled men and where the perception of disabled women sit in society, because I do think it's different. And then you've got where men and women sit in society generally. So and
everyone who maybe doesn't even identify with either gender, or
indeed,
you know,
indeed.
I mean, that is just another conversation for another day. But I think because, you know, I identify as female, cis female, you know, and you as a not cis man, but I've forgotten the term.
No, cis man is right. I think.
Is it okay?
I think so.
But you know what I mean? I think this is why we don't want to isolate anyone. When
no, indeed.
We can only make reference to our own personal experiences. But yeah, you're absolutely right, and it is a different experience. You were talking to the lovely Mick Scarlett this morning, weren't you?
Via Twitter, yes.
Via Twitter, who is you wouldn't mind us saying, a more senior member of the community with regards to prolific activist and campaigner.
Experienced.
He's more experienced. Senior is the wrong word. He's probably going to kill me for that. Sorry. I've just added about 50 years to your age there. You were chatting to him on Le Twittage.
Mm-hmm.
about.
Yeah, because he had received unsolicited messages from people on Twitter, and he said, "Why am I getting these unsolicited messages? You know, I'm married, I'm happy. What has society become that we now send these kind of messages to people just unsolicited?" And when you read the responses, mine included, they were very much from a humorous standpoint. And I sort of said to Mick, I'll own up to it. I said to Mick, I'm not getting these messages. What am I doing wrong? What have I got to do to get, your sexiest disabled man alive title? What's going on? And he then replied to me and called me out on it, which is fair play. And he said, it's interesting, isn't it? If this was to happen to you, Sam, or to a female member of the community, we'd be in uproar. But as guys, we find, everybody approaches us with humour. And I went, do you know what? That's a fair point. And it's probably to do with the fact that, men have the privilege of novelty, and the fact that we don't get bombarded to the same level that you ladies do with unsolicited messages and comments. And also, masculinity and the fact that in society for a bloke to receive those kind of messages, it's a case of, it's a badge of honour in some, masculine circles. Yeah. And it's not taken into account that those messages could be problematic for the person that's receiving them. It's women are giving you attention. That's great, because it's considered empowering for men to get that attention from women, as not so for women as much. And I think it's very interesting.
It is an interesting one, and if you were to look on my Instagram or even now and again on Twitter, because I do post pictures. There are a few pictures on my Instagram that are a little bit cheeky, a little bit sassy, a little bit, kind of flirtatious. Because I am a sexual being, and I, like anyone, some days I just want to feel empowered and, show a little bit of sexy lingerie, and I think that's fine. But I always, underneath the picture, there's always a really serious message behind it, not just, I mean, I'm not saying that even if you just posted a picture and go, hey, look, how fit am I? That's fine. But for me, it normally comes from a comment or an ableist view that, infantilizes me. So I kind of write do a nice picture to go, don't infantilize me. I'm a grown-ass woman. And it is actually really funny because not all, again, but I do get a lot of unsolicited comments that have not read the text, have just seen the picture, and even though it's the irony, and they say something really quite crass or really quite suggestive, or kind of like, oh, I'll do this to you or that to you, on a page. And even that, it's like, who gives you the right to kind of intrude on my kind of space like that, when you could have just gone, okay, what a nice picture. Why does it always have to turn into something of a sexual nature just because a woman? I mean, let's face it, I always find this really funny. You go to a beach and you see women in bikinis, right? A bra is a bikini, but waterproof.
Yeah,
right?
Fair.
So why do we get so hot and bothered and feel like we can objectify women who show a picture of them in their underwear? But, you don't go up to someone on a beach and start hauling. I mean, you might do if you're that person, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, and I suppose it goes back to the whole age thing, if a girl wears short skirt, are they asking for it? I think now we've just gone from that to online, and it, the argument is, if you put yourself out there, you are exposed to this. And I recently, because I called out someone who described me as a confusing wank, and I took it as, yeah, I don't know if it's a proper term, but I took it as they are attracted to me, but they shouldn't because of my disability.
And that's that's what I define it as. If it was me reading that term, I think it's a ridiculous ridiculous term. But yeah, I define it in the same way that you would. I'd say that's fair. That was the intention. Yeah.
It was funny because I had a lot of after I posted that, and I posted a kind of it wasn't even a watch, it was just a really pretty picture of myself in a faux fur jacket with a tiny little bit of a brassiere, like tiniest bit brassiere. And I had just this influx of men DM me, slide into my DMs. And a lot of them were just genuine, going, there's nothing confusing about you. I don't, just ignore him, kind of being sweet, but not for me, not crossing a line. And then some people just cross the line even further. I'm like, are you not even reading
the whole point of why I'm posting this?
About?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a scary old world. And for me, I struggle with dating because of this, and I think for me, maybe I'm old-fashioned and maybe I'm totally out of it. I do want a little bit more romance rather than just straight in sexting or, getting too hot and heavy. And I think as a disabled woman, as I've gotten older, I used to say yes to things, particularly of a sexual nature, even when I didn't feel comfortable. So I would give into it earlier because I wanted to feel normal. I wanted to, have that experience. And as I've gotten older, I don't really get libido's gone. But for me, I need more of a connection with someone, not only because I need it for my own soul and my own mental well-being, because it's better to form a friendship, to form some sort of meaningful connection. But also, let's face it, at the moment, I've got 2 non-union fractures. I've got rods poking out of, bones, and the cold weather is really messing up with all my arthritis and everything. So for me to be intimate with someone that I don't know, or someone that just slides into my DMs and wants to meet up, of course, that's not going to happen because of the pandemic. But take that out of the equation.
Yeah.
I couldn't just do that. You know what I mean? I couldn't. For me, it's a lot to be like, right, okay, but you can't do this, can't do that. We've got to think about that, and we've got to, I would rather. I think this is what makes dating with a disability harder, is the online element, because it's so fast paced and it's so like boom, 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 and it needs to get to sex so quickly rather than physically going out on a date. And I think that's quite sad. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a case of, social media in general, and, all the things attached to it, and the fact that we're also connected via phones and messaging apps and all those kind of things. People have definitely, myself included, I'm going to hands up, people have definitely lost, when you're in that world, because it's not connected to a person face to face, and you're like 2 steps removed, filters disappear, stops disappear, in how you'd approach people when dating or relationship wise, and you'd probably say things that if you were in person you'd never dream of doing.
Would you straight away say something when you have never met someone, have only literally instigated conversation? Would you straight away be crass and mention something sexual, or say that you want to get in their knickers, or I love to do this to you? Would you do that? Or would you do, I get a lot of that. I'm like, that's so off-putting. I find it so off-putting. Straight
away, no chance. There has to be some sort of relationship built there, no question. But I do think, people get to that quicker because they're 2 steps removed. And it's essentially, would I say this to you in person straight away? Probably not. But because essentially it's a message and it doesn't necessarily mean a lot, you end up sending things that you wouldn't normally send. But I think I'm
so old-fashioned. I only mention it because, funnily enough, about 2 weeks ago, someone did slide into my DMs, and normally I just tell people to go and bugger off.
Yeah.
But I did get chatting to someone, and they seemed very genuine, and it wasn't anything like that to begin with. It was like, I find you attractive, but nothing salacious. So we'd be messaging most days. But it's got to that awkward stage now of like, do you send some? He's asked for like, are you up for like sending pictures of things? And I'm not that sort of person. Just because it's like, I don't know, don't spoil the surprise. Also, I am in the public eye, and I've got to think about these things. Like, I don't know exactly who you are until I've met you.
No.
And I don't want to send any pictures of that. But I think when you do have a sort of relationship on or whatever on text or online, I think it does, and I it does speed up the process, and it kind of, I don't know. For me, it's like I would love to take the sex element away if that's going to happen. That would happen organically.
But
whereas, on text, because if you turn around and go, no, I'm not sending that, or if you turn around and go, I don't want to send you a sexy message this morning, or I'm really not in the mood for it, I think it can lead to, like, it can fizzle out so quickly. And I think, do you know what I'm craving? I'm craving real one-on-one.
No, totally. But in the scheme of things, as much as I've said I'll put my hands up and, I've probably sent messages quicker than I normally would, or, that kind of thing, when it comes to having an actual relationship with a person, I am very much like you. I'm not a one-night stand person. I'm not, I need to be able to trust that person because, much like you with cold and arthritis and rods, I'll have days where I have spasms or I'm hurting or, all those kind of things where I need that relationship where I trust that person. And, I'm very lucky that with my lady that I have that relationship, that I trust her implicitly. So I'm very, very lucky in that sense.
You know what? It is a minefield, and I didn't think I'd internalised as much as I have until I start talking to someone. Even with this specific person I'm chatting to now, just casually, at the back of my mind, because he obviously is aware of my disability, and we've kind of touched upon it, but not into great depth. But even at the back of my mind, I'm like, really? Is he sure he's okay with that? And when he says that's fine, I just see you as Sam, I'm attracted to you as Sam, I honestly constantly second guess it. And as a campaigner and as a woman who feels extremely strong and proud of my identity, I find that really sad that when it comes to dating and relationships, I still doubt anyone being attracted to me or, kind of not being fazed by the disability, and Sophie Morgan did a really powerful, post on a story not that long ago, and someone asked her the same question. She went, do you know what? I've never not been in a relationship where the disability did at some point cause an issue, and I think we do need to talk more openly about it. I mean, look at the statistics. What is it, 52%, 54% of people won't date someone? And it's
50% according to Lisa, yeah.
Yeah, it's so difficult as someone with a disability to really, really trust. And that's sad, isn't it? You should not question. You shouldn't question it. But that is, that's ableism. That's, ingrained in us. That's from years of being told that, we'll never get married. We'll never, kind of be in a relationship. I think that needs to be, absolutely unpacked. I'm sure I'm not the only one.
And I think, part of it also for me, definitely, partly because of my career choices as well. I've regularly had conversations with partners, my girlfriend included. I say current, like I'm going to change her. I don't plan on it. Not at all. Like I say, I love her dearly. But, where I've gone, I can't, because of my career choices, my income and stuff isn't dependable. Because of, when it comes to things like sex, there are certain positions I can't do, just for sheer practicality, not because I don't want to. And, you do have to have those conversations with partners as a disabled person. And finding someone that is understanding of that can be a challenge. I've been quite fortunate. I've been very fortunate, let's be fair.
But do you think, though, and I don't want to generalise, but, men are notorious for having a higher sex drive, libido. That is just biology. Yep. On the whole. And don't get me wrong, I've known some women that are absolute nymphomaniacs. Like, I'm like, go girl, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know there's always exceptions to the rule, but I think even that, being a disabled woman in comparison with a disabled man, I think our experiences differ. So say if you were to say to a female partner, I can't throw you against the wall and have sex with you against the wall because I'd struggle. I'd have to use my sticks to keep my balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and I think a lot of women would be more compassionate and understanding and open to more sensitive kind of like more sensual things, whereas I've always experienced men are not as open to sacrificing on how much sex can be had. That's my experience.
Possibly.
That's been my experience.
Possibly.
And then I felt inadequate, and then I've kind of like, ended the relationship.
Possibly. But then on the flip side, and I am playing devil's advocate, I'm very lucky that, my partner and I are pretty understanding. As a man, whether it's put on yourself or not, because a lot of it is, it's self-angst and, wanting to be... there can be a lot of self-pressure to perform. In the fact that as a disabled man, my partner's been with non-disabled men and they can pick her up and throw her against a wall. I can't, so do I need to compensate?
Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate. So I think it works both ways. And I think, women may be more open to it. I don't know. I can't, comment for the ladies. But I think there is that there.
There's always going to be the middle ground, and that was a sweeping generalisation.
Of course,
however,
we are generalising. We are by no means.
But I'm only kind of retelling my personal experience. So unless I've got a particular type and I keep going for the wrong people, I always end up going for 6 foot something guys with a very high sex drive. Oh, they're just drawn to me. I've never dated a short man. So short men,
if you're listening,
please, dear God, because I don't like looking at someone's belly button while we're having at it.
I've never considered that, darling.
You know who said that? So our good friend Nikki Johnson, who's a fabulous photographer, who did our promos for Life Downloaded.
Yeah, whenever you see an image of me in a Superman shirt and Sam in a glamorous red dress, it has been taken by the lovely Nikki Johnson. Post-COVID, we probably should get some more pictures taken.
Yeah, we really do. We need to. But anyway, so we were chatting about this, and I said to him, honestly, not through choice, just through people being attracted to me. They've always been over 6 foot tall, and I just don't know, and it's kind of a running joke now. And he said, well, how does that work then? Do you just look at their belly button during sex? I went, well, yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now
we're speaking truths, I don't actually care anymore, because I've found that when we aren't authentic and don't get to the bottom line, I know most people that watch us are have a disability. And I kind of want them not to feel alone, because I think a lot of the time even if you feel confident like I am, or both of us are, you can feel so alienated a lot of the time because we're just not talking about nitty gritty ins and outs. And this is why I used to love going to the Brittle Bone Society AGM, annual general meeting, because we just used to most of us didn't really get on. We were all like family. We all kind of hated one another.
Yeah, all bickered.
Like a really extended, mixed up family. But there was no topic that was stupid, or no lived experience that was dismissed or brushed under the carpet or, diminished in any way. And we just kind of really just were open and honest. I think that's what we're missing now, and I hope I bring that with my social media. Have you frozen, or are you just looking?
No, I'm a statue. I'm like one of those guys you see in like the street, one of the street performers that don't move. No, I'm just listening intently, my dear.
That was really good listening. Well done.
Thank you. No, but it is interesting. And while I'm looking at the comments and the questions, because we are live,
scary.
I know, right? Lisa asks a question. On some dating apps, you can rule out people of search results based on gender, religion, ethnicity, their academics. How would you feel about people ruling out others based on disability?
I think everybody has a type and everybody is allowed to feel attracted to whatever. But I do feel like I just did an unconscious bias training yesterday, which was really, really powerful. And I think a lot of us make decisions on who we feel compatible with or who we feel comfortable with based on, these unconscious bias. So these messages of otherness or people not fitting in or stereotypes, which are harmful. So, I'm not saying if you're attracted to X, Y, and Z, that's fine, or you've got a preference. I don't think you should be penalized for that. However, you need to actually think, why am I not attracted? Am I not attracted because, they remind me, they look like my brother? Or are you know what I mean? Or the kid that bullied you at school, you know what I mean? Or are you rejecting these people because you think that they aren't going to understand your way of life, or they're not going to, fit in, or they won't be able to have sex, or they won't be able to have children. Same as if you think, if they are Indian or Muslim, they won't drink. So if you're a heavy drinker, that's not, that's probably not going to be compatible. I think the danger with disability is over all the other groups that you could possibly, tick off. We are so in the dark about disability, and there's so much falsitude out there. There's so much negativity. There's so much misinformation and ableism that people, if people click no, it will probably be because it comes from a false place.
Yeah.
Look at Dan. You're a very attractive man. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure if someone saw you right now without, being in your chair, they would be clicking. And that's what I had on my when I did a dating site. I don't know what it was like. I put a nice picture. I was all done up, just a torso. And I had in like 3 days over 200 messages from people.
Well,
right?
Check you out.
No, I swear on my dad's grave. Like, it was crazy. And I was like, oh my goodness. Because I looked shit hot. And then I whittled it down to a few who I kind of thought would be most compatible. And as soon as I mentioned my disability, it was like, how fast could we, get out of this situation? Or let's say something very, very patronizing. So I think the danger with it's a little bit like creeping up. I don't mind non-disabled actors playing disabled roles, but that day can only come when we have more of a level playing field.
Okay, yeah.
And you know what I mean? When I can go to an audition and get on the underground and not pay expensive taxis, or not be typecast, or get to somewhere that there's not step-free access. Same with dating. Until you start to see sexy disabled people on TV, models with disabilities, your teacher, that until you start to, I don't want to say normalize, but until you start to be more inclusive and have equity for disabled people, then people can make
then put the filter in place. Yeah, an educated choice. Yeah.
Does that all make sense?
Yes. There's a difference between an educated choice and going, oh no, not disabled people. Oh yeah.
They obviously can't have sex, can they? So what's the point?
Exactly. But once you've been educated and you learn that disabled people are generally pretty damn good at sex, because we're willing to adapt, and we're willing to learn, and we're willing to work with what we've got, and because we're considerate because we have to be. Then it's one of those things, isn't it? It's the case of, once everybody's aware of that, then you'll see the benefits of being with somebody with an impairment, rather than, oh my God, that's really problematic for me. Hopefully that's what we aim for.
Absolutely. And I think, sometimes I often get, whenever I kind of challenge this and challenge my own experiences and, and ask for advice of people and kind of want a sympathetic ear, a lot of people say the comment, and I understand they're trying to be helpful, but in the great scheme of things, it's not. People say, well, he wasn't the one for you. He's not the right one. If he's the right one, then he won't care about your disability, or he won't care about this. So, and I hear what they're saying, but actually there might be really, really genuine, like I might have my soulmate out there who is just being bombarded with misinformation. Does that make sense? So there's that. It's like I wish I didn't have to wait around for 1 in a million or 1 in 1,000 who has perhaps whose mother might be disabled or who has some experience of disability. Therefore, it isn't a scary prospect. So yeah, it's not very helpful when people say that.
No, and that I always find that that's a really, and I'm playing devil's advocate. This seems to be my preset today. That I'm going to be.
Why do you disagree with everything I say, please?
I don't disagree, but it's a case of, you said, people say to you, they won't care about your disability. That won't matter. And it's like, I find that term quite problematic because I understand where it comes from. But at the same time, I think it was, who was it? I can't remember now. But there was somebody talking about a conversation. Oh, that was it. It was one of the guys in the wrestling community. There's a guy called Cody Rhodes who runs one of the biggest wrestling companies in the world, at All Elite Wrestling. And his wife is a black woman called Brandy. And he turned around to her and he said, but I don't see race.
Yeah.
And she went,
I get that.
And she went, hang on a minute, I don't want you not to see it.
Yeah.
Because by not seeing it, you're invalidating my experiences as a black woman.
Yeah.
I want you to, I don't want it to become an issue, but I want you to acknowledge that it's there and acknowledge that it informs my life experience and everything else. And so somebody not seeing my disability, although it's well-intentioned, I find the phrase really problematic because it can, minimise life experience, understanding.
I need someone to see my disability. I need them to see my the barriers that are placed in front of me. I need them to respect that. I need to, I want them to see my disability. I want them to go, do you know what? I'm going to take you out on a date, and I've thought about step-free access. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I agree with you. And that was probably a poor choice of wording on my part. I think what I was trying to get at is, the right person won't have all the prejudice.
No, exactly. And I know that's where you're coming from, but I just find that phrase problematic because,
I agree.
Yeah, because it is one of those that negates lived experience.
Absolutely, and it's and it is a minefield, and it's one of them. It's like we shouldn't then have to educate people, but then are you not? Because if you on a practical level, I could wait around, for the right one who, has in some way, either had their own experience of disability or is just a good person and open to educating themselves and has done their own kind of, exploration of the disabled world. You know what I mean? I could wait around for that. But again, all the barriers that I have to physically get to that point. So, for example, like we've talked about today, prejudice, ableism on dating sites. When I went on to the one I did, I couldn't even put my own height because it's the height button clicked 5.1. So of course the guys are going to get a shock when they see me because I'm not 5'1". I'm like 3 foot nothing. You know what I mean?
But what an awesome package of 3 foot nothing you are. Let's be fair.
Package, of course. What is it? Pocket rocket? Or physically get it. Like I can't be going. Someone said to me, my friend goes on like 3 in London, goes 3 on 3 dates a week. I said, I wouldn't physically be able to afford that. If I take a taxi, I can't go on the underground. If I took a taxi for 3 dates a week and all of them were shite, right? I'd be spending hundreds of pounds a week for a crap experience. So I think we need to even look at the practicalities of dating and be realistic that sometimes, we can't wait around for Prince Charming to all of a sudden be like, I am so accepting of everybody, and I know your life because I, know someone with brittle bones, or you know what I mean? Like it's a minefield. And then I suppose people would turn around and say, well, why don't you just consider dating disabled people? And for a very long time, that I didn't want to do that. That was out of my mind because not because I didn't find disabled people attractive, but I wanted to make a point to non-disabled people, to be like, why are you assuming that I can only date or would only want to date someone? That's another podcast for another day, I suppose.
It is. That's a whole podcast / self-therapy session.
That was definitely my 20s. That was 20s angst.
But yeah, it is complex, and Sandra says sorry she's late, but she's here, and.
Sandra, we're gonna go in a minute, for goodness.
No, she's been here for a while. I am sort of catching up, but she says that she'd worry that men was looking for sex and that she couldn't meet expectation.
Yeah, me exactly the same. I totally get that.
But again, playing devil's advocate because that's my role today. We don't know what other people's expectations are.
Yeah, but what if they tell you what they like? What like? This guy I'm chatting to now, he's told me he's got a high sex drive. Mm-hmm. And although I'm not sending pictures or rarely sending anything kind of kinky, just because I'm so tired, I'm not in the mood, and I don't think it would be very genuine of me to be sending something salacious when I'm sat here cutting my toenails. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, fair.
No, I've got to be in the mood.
I think and I come from a very advantageous point that I have a lovely partner. It doesn't mean we always get it right by any stretch, but I think it's about being able to find that person you can have that communication with.
Yeah.
And that comes from a privileged point where hopefully, I'm with somebody that I have that with, and I'm very lucky to have that. Like I say, it doesn't mean we always get it right by any stretch, but I think that's it's finding that person that you can have that conversation with.
That is true, but the disposable way of the social media and the way we dispose of people that don't meet our needs, that is where I feel the pressure. I get what you're saying 100%, and as a 35-year-old woman, I set boundaries. I am not gonna anymore. Like I told you, I used to go down a really, really dark path of wanting to please other people and do things that I felt so uncomfortable with and felt quite disgusted with myself afterwards, whereas I'm so removed from that. However, I still feel this pressure of, if I put them boundaries up to someone I'm chatting with casually on WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever it is, because of, that's how things happen. And I go, no, stop. That's not how I want to do things. I think, they are more inclined to, well, it's so much easier for them to go, right, well, I'll move on to the next. And I think that is a problem. And I think when you add disability onto that, that's where it gets even harder to set those boundaries, No. But I'm going to keep at it because, you know what? I've got cats. I don't really need
You've got cats, the lovely Lola and Bruno.
I've got you.
And me. Excuse me, yes, you've got me.
No pressure.
And, my lovely lady, happily.
Nice. Exactly. I see you now and again.
Yeah, exactly.
You buy me chocolates for my birthday. What more do I want?
I did buy you chocolates for your birthday. I bought you chocolates for Christmas as well. No, but that's because I haven't been able to get to you this year.
Whatever. I'm actually looking at the time, and I actually feel like I have got another meeting.
Oh, right. Then in that case, we should.
I might be wrong, but I feel like I've got something. It might be at 2:30, so I've got time. Actually, it's fine.
Okay. I would just like to put out a testament while we're on this sort of break, that your bladder is doing a great stint today.
Oh no, it's not. Why did it become rocking? I'm literally. So I did some unconscious bias training yesterday, and it was supposed to be for 2.5 hours. It lasted 4.5 hours, which is not a criticism because it was amazing and fantastic, and I loved it. However, my bladder was so full, and it was pushing on to other organs, and I was sat there, and when you really just don't want to stop because you know that everyone's going to have to stop doing the training. I've not had pain like that for a very, very long time. because you know how much tea I consume.
Yes.
It was like 4 cups of tea and all the rest of it. And even like my lower back started to hurt.
Oh my word.
I know. It was one of them moments where it actually hurt to release. So yeah, I'm not going to do that. And again, that was where I was leading into that. I'm not going to do that again because it's really bad for your bladder.
It is.
But yeah, on that note.
Well, Sandra has kindly named this week's podcast for us again. She says this week's podcast should be named Devil's Advocate and Belly Buttons.
What? Belly button? When did we mention belly buttons?
Because you were saying when you have sex with 6 foot men, all you see is their belly button.
Yeah, don't remind me. But I don't need to be reminded of that. That's upsetting.
Okay,
remind me of that.
We might call it a different title. I don't know what it's going to be.
I think we should call it Send Pics.
Send pics. All right, send pics.
When you're up in the air, do you send pics or not? No.
Sandra apologises. She says, "Sorry, love, for traumatising you."
Damn you!
Should we call it? Because obviously you've just had your first jab as well. Should we call it COVID jabs and send pics?
Yeah.
Okay, that's this week's episode, guys. So
I actually really, really need to go now because now you've talked about it. It's like
you need a wee.
I love you all, but I really am gonna.
So on that note, guys, this has been episode, I think, 27. 27. COVID jabs and send pics. My lovely podcast wife that's bouncing up and down is Samantha Rank. I am Dan Edge. We will hopefully see you around this time next week.
Yeah.
Take care.
Pretty flexible next week.
Well, hey. Aren't you flexible every week? Well, no, but take care of yourselves. Look after one another. Stay safe. And we'll see you in about a week.
Yay. Love you all. Bye.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.